Hey there, thanks for turning down my road. If this is your first time here, my name's Carl, and you've picked the perfect time of year to come ride along. My little brother and I both work for local farmers full time, but we both also farm together with our cattle herd and our hay operation. Everybody's involved, from the smallest to the biggest. If you don't have the joy of farming yourself, I'd love to help you experience it through this channel. Whatever your background, you found the right place. This is Dodge Brothers Farm and Ranch.
So I got the side dress bar all cleaned up the other day, got it washed. Now I've got some mechanical things that I need to take care of on this piece of equipment before I put it away for the off season, because the side dress applicator is one of those things that pretty much has to be ready to roll as soon as I hook onto it next spring. When we get done planting, we don't like to unhook the planter right away until we make sure that all the crops come out of the ground fine. We don't have to do any replanting anywhere. As soon as it's safe to unhook the planter, we've got to be hooked onto this thing and rocking and rolling. So I don't have time to do a whole bunch of overhauling on the side dress applicator in the spring. I know that there's a few of these coulter bearings that are loose, and I have my suspicions that I might need to check into the wheel bearings on the transport wheels too. Let's get to work. Okay, change of plans. We're gonna do the main wheel bearings first and let the sun shade get, it's really hot out there is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so taking all appropriate safety precautions, little wedges in front of the wheels so they can't roll out of the shop. I've got the this side of the machine hoisted up so I can turn this wheel freely. The other wheel on the other side is on the ground. And I'm pretty sure that this wheel bearing needs a little attention. So I'm going to take that center cap off and we'll take a look, see what's going on. This wrench is pretty cool. It allows you to ratchet going both ways, or it also allows you to use this center piece to ratchet the bolt out once you get it to the point of being finger tight. It's pretty sweet. It's made by Craftsman. Okay. So the bearings have gotten, I mean, there's still grease in there, but the bearings, as you can see, if you can see the rollers, are actually fairly dry. They need some grease. Also, there is some, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but when I put my foot on the bottom of the wheel and pull on the top of the wheel, you hear that thump? There is some slop in this wheel bearing. Anyway, you should be able to hear that. I need to get that slop out of there. That is a big cotter pin. Wow, thing is stiff. So the first step is to straighten this out as much as I can so I can try to get it worked out of there. I don't know if I'm gonna have any luck or if I'm gonna have to cut it off, but I think I can get her. There we go, got her out. So for those of you who are not familiar, this kind of a nut is called a castle nut. As you can see, it kind of resembles the top of a castle, and it's got a hole through the axle shaft here so that you can tighten the nut to a desired point and then drop that cotter pin through there, and that keeps that nut from turning off, because your wheel is always turning this way on this side of the implement, and it would actually be working to work that nut loose all the time. So that cotter pin is what holds everything together. So I'm going to see if I can turn this nut to the next notch and make sure it's not too tight. You don't want to hear that. I've got that slop that I can hear right now. You don't want to hear that, but you also don't want to get so tight that you're actually putting pressure on the rollers all the time, all the way around. And you'll know you're doing that if you turn the wheel and it doesn't just keep going and come to a really gentle stop. If it's wanting to stop, like this wheel doesn't want to stop, you let go of it and it wants to keep turning. I know I'm going to get criticized for tightening a castle nut with a channel lock pliers, but criticize away, that's fine, I can take it. Okay, I'm at the next notch right now. See if we've still got any slop. Ooh, very little. I can almost detect some, but I'm pretty sure that if I went to the next notch, I'd be dragging that bearing. If I could even easily turn it to the next notch. Let me see. Yep, I'm already putting, see, I'm dragging the bearing now. I'm halfway between the next two notches, and if I turn the wheel, look how it wants to stop right away. So I want to back it off to this next notch, and if I turn it gently, see that? It wants to keep going. So that's what we like. I'm going to put the cotter pin in this notch, and then I'm going to work on getting grease into this hub and out of both of these bearings. I'm going to do that by taking this plug out, replacing it with a grease zerk, and pumping grease in, rotating it around until I get good grease coming out through all these rollers. One thing you absolutely want to have is an assortment of grease fittings, because you'll always end up with a bad grease fitting once in a while that you need to replace. The little spring and the ball don't work anymore. I really hope when I get done tightening this that it's facing the right direction. But anyway, yeah, having a package of grease zerks that you can replace old ones with and that you can replace plugs with in a circumstance like this. There's not a lot of things you can count on in life, but one of those things is grabbing an empty grease gun. It's pretty predictable. It's always empty. Real nice. Real nice. Every one of these has got this bracket on here to keep the dust cap from coming off. Which is a good thing, because some of them kind of get knocked around in the field pretty good. Okay. So this chisel works really good to take these dust caps off. Just get it right in there. Kind of work your way around. I try not to drop it face down on the concrete like I did with the last one and get grease everywhere, but sometimes it's hard to know exactly when it's going to come. Should put a bucket underneath it, I know. It's a good suggestion, but okay, you can see the loose nature of this one. It's really loose. So I'm going to tighten that castle nut up. Those bearings are tapered, so they're like a cone. And when I tighten that up, it'll push the bearings together, and they get bigger as they go to the outside because they're cone shaped, and it'll tighten it up. And just like the big wheel bearings that we just did, I don't want to tighten these up too far. I want it to spin really freely, and if there's just a little bit of side slop in it, I'd much rather have that than get it just a little bit too tight, because that'll really wear the bearings out if you get it too tight. If you got just a little bit of slop and you keep it greased up really nice, that's not a problem. So this is much the same as the big ones. I'll get some of this grease out of the way so you can see what's going on in here. I'm actually not really taking the grease out of most of these. I can just reach in there with the needle nose pliers and get it done without taking hardly any of the grease out, but I'm just mopping a little out of the way here for you so you can see really well what I'm doing. Okay, so take my needle nose pliers, and these are only bent just one direction. Some straight, get them straightened out really nice, and I can pull it right out. And then I can actually just turn this castle nut with the needle nose pliers. Turn it to the next notch, check that. Wow, there's very little side slop. I go back to where it was, you can see all that slop. Next notch, quite a bit better, and I'm guessing, yep, I can't even get to the next notch. So this is where it's gonna live, right here. Just gonna put this cotter pin back in. Some people call these a cotter key. Some people call them a cotter pin. I call them a cotter pin. But either way, there we go. Bend it just enough that it can't come out. That's all that really matters. Then I'm just going to hammer this cap back on. Kind of get it seated all the way around, and this bracket put back on. Really nice. Okay, that's much better. Still spins really nice and freely. So we'll take the grease gun, and the main reason I'm greasing these right now at the end of the season just make sure that I've got any water out of the crevices and seals and everything that I might have gotten in there when I was power washing it the other day. So I'll just grease it until I either feel just a little bit of back pressure or see a little bit of grease weep out past the seal. And I can see a little grease right now. There we go. Run that a little bit to kind of get that grease coated all around the seal. And then I'm greasing these as well. Sometimes we'll get just a drip of water out of the end of these, but for the most part they're just grease now. Yep, there comes the grease, so that's good. So all of these are done now. The big wheel bearings are done. I'll just walk around the rest of the unit and grease the rest of the fittings. Make sure I don't get any water coming out of them. Some of them you'll actually see. Let me see if I can get any water out of maybe this one. Nope, just grease now. So that's good. That's good. We'll get grease worked into all of these, and then this thing will be just ready to roll when we get it out next year. Before we put it away, we have to put our antifreeze in it. We use RV antifreeze to fill all the lines in the pump so that they don't freeze over the winter, because the shed we keep this in is not heated.
So this pink liquid is called RV antifreeze. It's available at your local hardware store in gallon jugs. And we just pour 8 of those gallon jugs in here and run the circulating pump for a while until we've gotten all the water out. And then we run each individual boom section for a while until all the hoses are filled with antifreeze. And it's good to go to the shed for the winter. And now it's time to work on the Landall VT machine. This thing, with all of its disc blades and scrapers and rolling basket, it's not a pleasure to wash. Well, that's about enough fun for today already, I'd say. It's rained about 4 times while I've been washing this VT machine. I gotta go home. It's supper time. It's a little past supper time, but hopefully I'll get this finished tomorrow. And then once it's clean, we've got a little mechanical work that needs to be done on it before it gets put away for the winter. Well, she's done. I feel a lot better to be done washing that thing. This piece of equipment is the absolute worst to wash. Wow, is it bad. Anyway, enough complaining. She's clean. So if we get down here and begin to rotate this row of disc blades, we get right in here and you can look at this bearing hanger. You see the bearing sliding back and forth inside the hanger? And you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it if you look at it from this angle. See it sliding back and forth? And it's hard to tell from the naked eye, but the arbor bolt that goes all the way through this row of disc blades is actually bent. That's why if I stop it, watch this. If I stop it in this location right here, it'll automatically rotate backwards until it finds that spot where the center bearing hangs the lowest. So we need to replace that arbor bolt. I've got it in the shop. It's a really, really big bolt. It's about this big around,
And as you can see, we're gonna have to take off this castle nut, which you already learned about in this video. And then every single one of these spacers in between the disc blades, and they'll all slide off. We'll replace that arbor bolt and hang it all back up on the machine. It's a pretty big job, but we'll probably, hopefully get it done next week. Well, it finally looks like we're gonna get a break in the rain for the next 4 or 5 days, so make sure you tune in next time. I'll be cutting some more hay. I've got some waterways that I need to get mowed and baled. Good grief, guys, it's almost the 4th of July. I need to get this done. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.